Oh, good morning, magic makers. I am hoping that you're having a fabulous day. Today was just a little bit of a technology gremlin, and I've tried to record this podcast like 4 times. So fingers crossed, technology is on my side today. All right. So today I want to talk about consistency. And this is one of the things that, I've been at this for almost shockingly almost 20 plus years. It's like 25 years I've been in this health and fitness game. And this is the one thing that I see so many people trip over their feet is being consistent. And so I wanted to talk about it and I wanted to really like break it all down. And some people might feel called out, and that's okay. I want to call you out, but I also want to show you there is a way forward because a lot of this stuff are things that took me a long time to overcome. A lot of things I had to unlearn, a lot of hard lessons. I had to run into a couple walls and back myself out. And as a coach, my hope is that I can help my clients avoid the walls, right? I don't want you sprinting forward and then hitting a wall and feeling like you can't get out. You know, I want you to feel like as a coach, you can tell me anything. And really, there's really nothing you can tell me that one I haven't heard, that's not going to shock me, that's not going to make me judge you. We all have our shit. Like I got my shit, and we all have to figure out how do we make our health, life, and our shit all come together. So when it comes to consistency, there was a quote by Elizabeth Gilbert that says, "It's a simple and generous rule of life that whatever you practice, you will improve." Right. So here's where I want you to kind of unpack that quote there, that it's simple, right? The biggest challenge I see many women making is that we make it so freaking complicated. It has to be like I have to solve a mathematical equation in order to earn the right to work out or eat better or whatever, right? All the ducks have to line up in order for me to earn, right? And I'm using the word earn because I hear so many people not feel like, if A plus B doesn't equal C, then it's not the path, right? It doesn't have to be perfect. And practice, right? The words simple and practice are the two things that stick out with me. Practice. I want you to think about when maybe you didn't play a sport, maybe you played an instrument. You practice, right? You didn't show up and magically played the flute like some type of concert flautist or Lizzo. You had to like sound really bad. And then eventually, hopefully you got better because you kept practicing, practicing, practicing. Same thing with any sport. Maybe when you showed up the first time and you kicked a soccer ball, it only dribbled off of your foot. The first time you picked up a golf club, you kind of whiffed it over the golf club, right? So it just took time and practice for you to get there. And the same thing comes when it comes to your nutrition. Comes to your workout, right? You're not going to walk into the gym and know exactly what to do. You're not going to walk into the gym and be like, "What's your heaviest dumbbell?" and I'm going to lift that shit. No, that's not what you are going to do. So the key here when it comes to consistency is like, how can I make it simple? How can I like practice that in my life so that over time I'm going to see improvement? And I've said this before. I don't even know where I got it from, but it works. So many of you wake up on a Monday and you're like, "I'm gonna change my life," because Monday's the day you change your life, right? "I'm gonna change my life. And when I change my life on Monday, it better happen by Friday," like Amazon Prime. I don't know about you, but your body's on Amazon Prime. And if you've hit the age of 40 something and you look and you're like, you're not liking what you see in the mirror, you're like, "Where the hell did this weight come on?" It didn't come on last Monday, right? It didn't show up 4 days ago. It didn't show up 7 days ago. It has been a small incremental shift that is finally added up to the point that you're like, "Kill me now. I don't like this." So as it came on slowly, that's the way it's going to come off. Like it or lump it. Sorry, not sorry. So let me just set a scenario, right? So right now you look in the mirror or you couldn't button your pants, you're like, oh my God, I gotta lose the belly fat. I gotta drop the weight. I gotta run faster, whatever it is you've told yourself that your goal is. And you like, boom, you're like, you come right out of the gate. You're like cooking with gas, like everything is going gangbuster. You're so excited. Then gradually you start skipping a day or two here. Maybe if you're getting up in the morning, you press the snooze alarm, be like, I'll do it later in the afternoon, or, work gets a little busy. And if you're working out after work, your boss tells you have to do something, or you got to pick up your kid, or, you're skimping on your meal prep. So you're like, eating fast food a little bit more, eating out a little bit more pizza, a little bit more, skipping on the vegetables, and your sneakers start to collect dust in the corner. Sound familiar? Right? It happens. It's not you, I just might be, you might be feel called up, but that's okay. Right. And here's why I say this is that many of us get caught up in our outcomes, get caught up in the outcomes versus the process. So you're like, oh, I want to lose 60 pounds in 6 days. And I think I shared the story with you. I'm a moderator in a Facebook group, and this one woman is about to have surgery, and she's like, and I think it was like June. I think it was June. So say it was like by June, she needed to lose 15 pounds by August. Yeah, it was June. She had to lose 15 pounds by August. And I was like, good luck with you. Right. That was just such an unrealistic plan. So unrealistic that you think you can lose 15 pounds in, I think it was like 8 weeks. It's just absolutely unrealistic. And so she got so fixated on the outcome that she didn't think about the process. And so to do that, you have to have a plan. And the plan can't be a crash diet. We're 40 something years old now. And I don't know about you. I don't know how many crash diets I've been on. And how many crash diets have you been on that actually lasted more than 2 days? That didn't make you feel like shit. It didn't make you want to quit on it. And you're like, I'm never bleeping doing that again. So here's where, to be consistent, we need to focus on the process versus the outcome. And, this is in Atomic Habits by James Clear. That's my Bible. That's one of his biggest tenets, his biggest takeaways, is one of the reasons why people aren't consistent with their habits is that we are so focused on lose the weight, that we don't back into how am I going to get to said weight. So to do that, you have to have a plan. If you want your outcome, you must build consistency into that plan. And before we get into that, you have to define what that plan is. All right. So let's break it down. The first step, clear. Like, I don't know how many people come to me and they're not clear about what they want. And that means you have to spell it out. What are you trying to achieve? And if you say, I want to lose the belly fat, great. Okay, we're starting right there. So that's my mission, right? The mission, lose the belly fat. Okay, now how do you connect with that? How is that when it is, I live in New England, when it's February, it's cold, it's snowy, it's dark. Do you not press the snooze button, or do you not be like, I'm going home? Like, what is that connection to you? And it doesn't have to be this big altruistic thing. It could be, I want to love what I see in the mirror. I want to wear a bikini again. I want to feel sexy when I have sex with my husband. I want to button my pants with ease. Like, it doesn't have to be this like, I want to have free world peace and hunger. No, it can be as vain as fuck. Okay. How are you going to calculate it? How do you know you're being successful? How are you tracking this? And when I say track, I'm not asking you to be like tracking like some type of like medical assistant. I am saying, how do you know how do you know that you are on the path? How do you know that you are, being successful? That's when I ask by tracking. And then course of action. Here's where so many get tripped up. Most of you will falter here, and it's not your fault. We were raised in diet culture, and it told us you needed to follow a specific plan. That plan had to have a name, and if you didn't follow if you didn't follow the list, you were going to, like, all hell will break loose, right? So here's the rub. Is this what's not making you consistent? Are you doing shit that is hard for you right now? That's not realistic for you. You're not excited about it. Ultimately, you can't make a plan for your life, and then it becomes unsustainable. And so, in order for this course of action, the one thing I always challenge my clients, I'm challenging you right now, make it freaking fun. Make it so that you look forward to it. Because if I'm not looking forward to it, it's going to be really easy to hit that snooze button. It's going to be really easy to make a left to go home versus a right to go to the gym. It's going to be really easy to be like, oh, I'll go to the grocery store next week. Oh, I'll just order pizza right now. It'll be so easy unless we come up with these like little things that make us say, you know what? No, I'm going down to the gym. I'm going to the grocery store. So many people say, oh, I just need more motivation, more willpower, more discipline. Your why is your motivation, your discipline, and your willpower. Because when I have a why, I can ask myself better questions. When I'm connected to my goal, when I'm clear on my goal, I can ask myself better questions. And so trust me, I am so honest with you. There are times I lay in bed and I'm like, oh, I just don't want to go. I really just don't want to go. And then I ask myself a question. Will laying here in this bed get me to where I want to go? And the answer is no. But sometimes the answer can be yes. And so, and I say this to my women who are the dawn patrollers, I get up at 4 a.m. and I must be at the 5, I'm walking in behind the girl who opens the gym. I actually have a woman who she works out while they're cleaning the gym. She made some deal with them. But I want you to ask yourself, if I am that person, am I going to the gym exhausted 5 days a week? Or am I able to get a good night's sleep? Because if I'm sacrificing sleep to get my tushy to the gym by 4 a.m., 5 a.m., whatever the dawn patrol time is for you, I need you to rewind and say, am I setting myself up for success by getting a good night's sleep? Because I will always trump you getting a good night's sleep over the workout. I would rather take you going to the gym Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then going on the weekend versus going Monday through Friday and getting 5 hours of sleep, right? Because I always liken it to like putting water in a bucket that has a hole in it. The hole might be really small and you're probably like, I don't really feel any different. Awesome. But do you know what awesome really feels like? Or is it feeling awesome for you right now because you've just always worked out in this like exhausted state? So I'm throwing this out there. This was just kind of like one of those like thought bubbles. If you're reading a book and they have like one of those like inserts, this is an insert. This is an insert. It just popped up in my brain. All right. So when we're calculating our course of action, you also have to ask yourself, what is going to trip you up? And I don't see a lot of people asking this question because so many people like, oh, if the stars align, this is what's going to happen. And I'm going to say 80% of the time, the stars align. I'm talking about that 20% of the time when there might be traffic, a snowstorm, your boss tells you you need to stay late, a kid gets sick, you get sick. This is what many of us don't anticipate. Many of us are like, oh, shit could go wrong. I never thought about that. And then when that shit goes wrong, that's when everything kind of blows up in your face. And that's what typically keeps many people from being consistent. Okay. So the bulk of this podcast is where I want to spend. How can we keep up with ourselves? How can we truly get to the point about consistency? Because you may know the Fit Girl Magic formula. I need great habits. Those habits are going to deal to a great routine. Those routines lead to consistency, and those consistency leads to results. All right. So if I have habits, those habits are going to turn into routines. The routines are going to be consistent, and those that consistency is going to give me the results that I'm ultimately seeking. So first things first, try to make the easiest, most effective changes first. And, so many people, like I said, you have been conditioned that I must follow a diet, that I must eliminate everything. I must remove all carbs, remove all sugar, remove. Um, Go to the gym, do all the soul sucking workouts, be so sore that I can barely get off the toilet the next day. No, that's not where I'm going to start. I want you to ask yourself, what is going to be the easiest or the most effective change? And we'll talk about that as we get deeper into the podcast. But keep this in mind. How I get to my goal is how I'm going to keep my goal. So if I have to go to the gym 10 hours a day, you know, lift heavy stuff, eat like a bird, am I going to do this for my natural born life, for the rest of my natural born life? And if you are 40 something, that means another 40-ish years of doing that. Hell to the no. And I'm hoping that many of you are like saying hell to the no right here. So here's where I ask, what if done consistently? Here are the questions we're going to ask ourselves. What if done consistently would give me the biggest results? Like, what are the biggest dial movers? And what are the easiest and simplest things for me to do consistently, even if it might necessarily be the most important change right now? In other words, I want you to think about realistically and reliably versus perfect. And then ask yourself, what is the trade-off? What are the trade-offs that I'm willing to make? And so again, I talked about sleep. Am I willing to, instead of going 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, am I willing to go on Saturday and Sunday, knowing that I can get 2 more days of getting better sleep? Am I willing to set a damn bedtime so I can get up and be a dawn patroller? Like, those are the questions that you're going to ask yourself. And what are the factors that might get in my way? What are the obstacles? And is it possible for me to get rid of them? Is it possible for me to reduce them? What are the things that, when a obstacle comes up, I always ask my clients to create what if then statements. Like, if I have to go to work late, then I'm going to do this. If I need to, if I don't get a good night's sleep, then I'm going to do that. What are those, pre-programmed things that we can start to set in motion so that we have that plan for the obstacles? Because, here's the thing. Shit is always going to happen. Life's going to always life. I remember this was almost 10 years ago. I live in Boston, and we had over 100 inches of snow that year. And literally, like, it was like every other day, it was a snowstorm, and not like a little snowstorm. It was like a 20-inch snowstorm. And, it typically would always happen overnight. And I like to work out in the morning. And I just remember I would have to be shoveling my car out to get to the gym, and then shoveling my car out to get home from the gym. And I was like, you know what, this isn't fun. Like, this sucks. And I started to like accumulate gym equipment so that I could, like, when it did have those snowstorms, I could be home, and I didn't have to do these like crazy, have to shovel my car out 2 times to leave my house. Right. So those are the kind of the thoughts that I want you to think about. Like, I'm not saying build a gym at your house. I'm saying, what are some of your obstacles, and what are some of your going back and forth? And, if you are struggling with that, do me a favor, reach out. Like, you know how to find me. I'm pretty easy to find. But here's where, to be consistent, it requires us to create some structure, requires us to create systems, and if possible, grab a coach so that that person can help you. Sometimes we can't see the trees for the forest. Like, sometimes we're stuck. We're like, all I see is birch trees. I don't see it's a forest. And that's okay. That's one of the reasons why, I hire coaches from time to time, is because sometimes I get stuck, and I get stuck in my own shit, and I need someone to pull me back and be like, do you see everything? Like, let's look at the landscape, and how can we navigate the landscape of where you are in. And that the biggest thing, the basic consistency is that there are going to be obstacles. It's never going to be smooth sailing. So many people, like, when you hear them talk about weight loss, they're like, oh, I must reduce my calories by 500 500 calories a day because 3,500 calories is 1 pound of fat. And I'm going to lose 1 to 2 pounds a week. All right, I'm going to call bullshit on that. One, most of you listening to me have been on at least 10 diets. And if you've been on at least 10 diets, your body is so hip to that. Two, many of you listen to me are perimenopausal, menopausal, or postmenopausal. And our hormones are like, girlfriend, I am running the show now. So don't you even try. And those little like rules, if you will, that shit flew out the window. And so here is where you have to ask yourself, okay, what can I need to accept where I am, right? I need to say, this is where I am, and all I can do is what I can do. All right, there's not going to be any like hard facts here. You are the hard fact. It's you learning about you so that you can start to navigate this stuff so that we're not playing this up 10, down 10, up 10, down 10, up 5, down 5 roller coaster game. And so here's where we start to take the time and think about, what are the obstacles? And then start to ask ourselves, instead of going for the A plus, right? Many of you listening to me are perfectionists. Maybe you're in the recovery program. You're in the first stages of recovery. I'm a recovering perfectionist myself. And one of the ways I had to get over it must be this way. Like my mindset was so rigid about my workouts and my food. Like my food has to look this way, and my workouts have to look this way. And if they don't look this way, then it's shit. So the first place I went was good, better, best. And I've talked about this before, right? And so especially when it came to a workout, and some weeks, like I said, 90% of the time, my weeks look like the same. Boom, 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 like automatic. And then sometimes I got a busy week. I travel, and my normal rhythm gets thrown out. So I have to come up with good, better, best. What is going to be a good week? What's going to be a better week? What's going to be best week? So when it comes to my workouts, my best week, 5 days. I am working out 5 days a week. I'm lifting 5 days. That's my best week. My better week, I'm 4. My good week, I'm 3. That's how I roll. And that's how I was able to just let go of that perfectionism. So, for example, I was traveling a couple weeks ago, and I was leaving on Wednesday. And I knew Wednesday I was leaving bright and early, so there was no way I could work out on Wednesday. And that's typically a workout day for me. So I was like, okay, I'm going to work out Sunday. I'm going to work out Monday. I'm going to work out Tuesday. And then Wednesday will be my rest day. And then I will work out on Thursday, and I'll work out on Friday. And so I was like, I sat aside and I said, okay, this is how it's going to be. And I got to it, but I was also willing to say, you know what, maybe on Thursday I could be tired. And so I will take Thursday as a rest day, and I'll work out on Friday and be okay that I only got in 3 days. All right. So it's like, I've pre-programmed, and I gave myself if then. So let me repeat that. So I knew I was traveling Wednesday through Saturday. So I knew that Wednesday was a travel day. I knew Saturday was a travel day. So I'm like, okay, those are 2 days that are going to be my rest days. So that means that I'm going to work out Sunday through Tuesday, and then Thursday and Friday. Now, I said, if I wake up on Thursday and I'm exhausted, and I was attending an event, and if there was no other time during the day to work out on Thursday, I was giving myself the out and saying that's going to be an additional rest day, and I'll work out again on Friday, so that it would be a 4-day workout week versus a 5-day workout week. And so giving myself the grace, giving myself the space there. A lot of times, sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm just not feeling it. Like, I'm just not feeling it. And sometimes I'll say, you know what, I'm going to set a timer for 15 minutes. And I'm just going to be like, whatever I can get done in 15 minutes, I'm going to get done. And if I can't get anything more than foam rolling done, I'm out. Or I'm going to go for a walk for 15 minutes. And if I get to 15 minutes and all I do is turn my booty around, then that's it. And so I want you to start to think about that. Something is better than nothing. And, primarily, women over 40, the focus is strength training. And so if 80% of my workouts, I do involve strength training, but the other handful of workouts, all I got in me is a walk, then I will take that walk because it might lead to something else. You might come home and be like, you know what? I just needed to get out of my environment. I just need to clear my head. And I can come back and, maybe it's not going to be a full hour workout, but maybe you could tackle on doing some squats and some push-ups and some whatevers, So here's where it's like, something's better than nothing. And it might, that 15 minutes, it might turn into something and it might not, it's just giving ourselves the grace with that. But the bulk of the rest of the time for this podcast, I want to spend on what I call nailing the basics. Okay. And so many of us get wrapped around the axle in the minutia, the absolute utter minutia, things that in the grand scheme of life, they are not going to move the dial. And, I know many of you listening here, you're like, I am all about moving that damn dial. I feel you, I hear you, and I get it. So, what you think about the basics as kindergarten, right? We all went to kindergarten. We showed up and, they're like, okay, today we're going to learn to color in the lines. Like, that's what we're going to learn to do. We're all going to learn to use the glue and not eat the glue. That's what we're going to learn. We didn't roll up into kindergarten and be like, I've been coloring since I was 3, so I'm cool there. Where's the advanced algebra? That's why I'm here. Like, no 5-year-old or 6-year-old says that. And that's what adults do. They're like, I know how to eat. Great. If you knew how to eat, why are we having this conversation? And I'm saying this because I had to get called on my shit too. Yes, I know how to eat, but is what you're doing right now getting you the results that you want? Hard question. And if you look and you're like, yeah, no, it's not giving me, then I got to change something. Something has got to change. And so over 66 days, I work with clients to change something, work on the basics, get their basics so freaking rock solid that they're immovable, unmovable. Am I saying that right? Anyway, they can't change. Like, you can't, like, they're just ingrained in you. That's what I'm looking for. They are so ingrained in you, And so when I first read the book, Atomic Habits, James Clear, he talks about creating a habit. It takes about 66 days to get this habit locked in. And, many of us have told it's 21 days to get a habit. And I will take a quick tangent. The 21 days to build a habit was, there was a plastic surgeon back in, I think it was the 60s. And when he did reconstructive surgery on someone, it took them about 21 days for them to actually recognize their face, their whatever the cosmetic change was. I think it was new. I think it was like a nose job, but it took them 21 days to start to be like familiarize themselves with, this is what I look like now. And so we held that for 40 plus years. We held that onto that, and then fast forward, many people know it. And so on the Atomic Habits, it's like it takes about 6 days for us to start to feel like not awkward, but not like feeling like you're a giraffe trying to learn to walk for the first time, to get into the what we're trying to create, that habit that we're trying to create. So I created this 60 days. So I was like, all right, that's an interesting thing. So I was like, all right, let me see how I feel after 66 days. And like, what it would take just to nail the basics, right? To help you get in your reps so that you're easily staying on track. And so a few years ago, I was caught in that all or nothing mindset. Like, my workouts I told you, I was so rigid in my thinking. Like, my workouts had to be 90 minutes. My food had to be like on point all the damn time. There was like little wiggle room. And because of that, it would just be like, I was either on track or was off track. And I was sick of living that life. And I was going on vacation and I was like, I don't want to ruin this vacation with all of my crazy food rules, right? I remember, I would go out to dinner and all of my like questions, not like, okay, do you like this food or that food? Like, those were my questions. It was like, what's it cooked in? How's it prepared? Blah, blah, blah. Like, pretty much like, can I go and sit on a stool and watch the chef make my food? Right. That was how I used to be. But I was like, I don't want to be that on this dream vacation. And so I just kept it really, really simple. And that was a turning point for me because I finally just let shit go. And not in a like a fuck it way. That was that was my alternative. Like, throw caution to the wind, do whatever I want and deal with it later. I was like, how can I start to be more mindful about this? How do I start to make this a part of my life versus my life? And so I kept it really simple. I had a movement goal, I had a strength training goal, I focused in on my nutrition, I focused in on my self-care, and I focused in my water. Those are like, I kept it really simple. Those were like the five things that I focused on. And I was like, what are the simple things I can do in those categories? And so it was like movement was just walking, it wasn't, going out for a power walk. It wasn't just like, how can I crush this? It was like, can I like move my body in some form or motion every day? Could I do that? You know, yoga, foam rolling. And when I say yoga, I'm talking like not power yoga. I'm talking like very like low key restorative yoga, mobility training, foam rolling, gardening, those kind of things. Strength training. It was like a minimum of 3 times a week. Could I like lift weights 3 times a week? And not have it be, it needs to be 90 minutes. It needs to be body part splits. It was like, okay, can I get a full body workout 3 times a week? Fruits and vegetables. And it was really primarily focused in on protein and vegetables. Every single meal, I wanted to make sure there was protein on my plate. Every single meal, I wanted to make sure there was some type of fruit or vegetable on my plate. And then everything else would fall. Everything else would fall into pieces, like the starchy carbohydrates, the good fats. Those are all fall into place. I also focused in on sleep. Can I get at least 7 hours of sleep every night? So that means setting a bedtime, and ideally, I think that's one of the toughest things for many of the women I work for is setting a bedtime. And here's the thing. I know that, we're like, I'm a grown ass woman, but I started setting a bedtime when I wasn't hitting back when I first started working out, and I wasn't hitting my workouts, and I was working out after work. And at the time, the trainer I was working with, he's like, oh, what's going on? He's like, you were so good. And, now you're missing workouts. What's going on? And I said, oh, work's been so crazy. And, by the time I get out, like the last thing I want to do is go to the gym. I've been leaving work at 8 o'clock at night. And the last thing I want to do is work out. I'm hungry, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, have you thought about working out in the morning? And I was like, what? The morning? That's early. And he's like, well, what time do you go to bed? And I was like, I don't know, like 11, 12. And he said, well, what are you doing? He's like, if you got home at 8 o'clock at night, he's like, do you immediately eat dinner? I was like, yeah, probably, by 9 o'clock I'm eating dinner. And then he's like, okay. And then he's like, what are you doing after dinner? And I'm like, I don't know. And, and he goes, so you got 2 hours there that you don't know what you're doing. But if you told yourself to get yourself in bed, you could get like at least 7 hours of sleep and get up in the morning. And I was like, huh. And he said, if you went to the gym earlier, and then he asked me, like, what time do I get to work? And I said, usually between like 9:30. He's like, okay, so you get to work between 9 and 9:30. And he's like, the gym is down the street from work. So he said, what if you got to the gym at 7? You worked out from 7 to 8, you showered and changed. Or you got to the gym at 7:30, you worked out from 7:30 to 8:30, and you showered and changed. And that was like the thing I needed to hear. So it was literally like starting to set a bedtime and be like, okay, be in bed by 10, lights out by 10:30, instead of passing out from the TV. None of us are staying up finding the cure for cancer or world hunger or world peace. No, none of us are doing that. So ask yourself, what are you doing? And here's the out that I want to give, those my dawn patrollers, my people who are out morning exercises. I want you to be like, okay, what would it look like if I had a bedtime? And, I know you hear about people talking about this, like their morning rituals, right? They have this like morning, like ritual. I don't know if they light incense and candles and blah, blah, blah. I have a bedtime ritual. It's like it's 10, 10, 10, and it takes me about 30 minutes to do it. And it's like, I come upstairs, I wash my face, brush my teeth, I get in bed, I do my breath work, I journal, I read. Those are my three things. 10 minutes. Boom. And it prepares my body for bed. It's kind of like I want you to think about your children, if you have children, or if you don't have children, you've seen this. Your kids have tubby time, and then there is read me a story, and then they have to arrange your stuffed animals in a certain way. There is a glide path. As adults, we lose that glide path. No one is been like, "Hey, Sally, time to wrap it up." No one says that to us. And some of my parents with younger kids, like they're like, "That's the time I get shit done." Like when Johnny sees your bed, great, awesome. Or one of my clients, she works really, really, really hard, and she works from home, and she's like, by the time I finish work and the time I have dinner, that's my time. Great, I want you to have me time. However, can we start to scale that back? If you tell yourself you want to, not be exhausted all damn day, we have to, something's got to give. If we go back to what I said, we have to look at, what are we willing to change? What are the trade-offs? Am I willing to change to get the results that I want? And that's where we have to ask ourselves, as you're sitting here, asking yourself, you're like, everything she just said, it sounds pretty good. Sounds pretty simple, right? It does. However, we have to say, okay, how do I change? What are my trade-offs that I'm willing to do to get what I want? And the final one was water, and here's where I'm not saying I'm on top of a gallon of water. I'm not saying that. I'm saying figure out how much you're drinking right now. And then can you add a glass? Right? That's it. Can you add a glass? And then I'm gonna work on adding a glass every single week. Does it you have to immediately jump out of the gates and get shit done? No. Here's where you decide what is going to feel realistic for you right now. And you have to also look at the season of your life. And I talk about this a lot because so many of us don't look at the season of our life. And it's if we just say, okay, here I am, it's day one. What is coming up the next 90 days for me? Am I talk about this client a lot because I think many of you guys can get it. Like, am I about to go into tax season, and is my life not going to be my own? My husband does online retail, and so pretty much from the beginning of October through the end of December, he just focus. Like we're just getting, we're just trying to get our retailers to get their final stuff, our stuff done, so that our retailers could have success. So are you in that period? Or are you in a period of time where you're like, you know what? I'm looking at my 90-day horizon. I'm like, gosh, I don't really have anything going on. I'm not traveling. The kids aren't having 4 million sports. There's not 4 million things pulling me. I got some time to really do some real me work. Great. But here's the thing, 66 days works on either. It shows you what you can do when you are supersonically busy, but it also shows you what you can do when you have the time, so that there's this ebb and flow. And I don't think many people understand the ebb and flow. We all have ebb and flow in our life. We have times where we're like, oh my God, I'm so busy. I'm traveling here. I'm doing this and doing this. Da, da, da. But then we also have time where we have the space. We have the energy to take on some more stuff. And then when we get a little bit busier, we're like, okay, what needs to ebb and flow? It doesn't mean I need to throw it away, but it's like, what needs to change based on where I am at this point in my life? And so that's what Operation 66 is all about. It's a 66-day program designed to help you stay on the wagon with daily tasks. It's finally time to show yourself that you can be consistent. You can make consistent, smooth, and steady progress in a sustainable way. And I know it's hard to be consistent, but with Operation Consistency, this is how you easily stay on track and keep staying on track and keep making progress. And nope, you're not going to be asked to do anything hard like lifting a truck or running a marathon, unless that brings you joy. You are going to be taking on activities that are realistic and sustainable, and then they're doable for you. just think 66 days from now, you will look back at your progress and you will have a huge smile on your face, right? Consistency isn't always easy, but Operation Consistency is here to help you. So don't start with the complicated schedules and the grueling workouts. It's about being healthy with simple activities that will help you make real progress and keep the momentum going. So Operation Consistency is open for you whenever you are ready. Do me a favor, go to the show notes, click on the link, and I will show you how to be consistent. So let's go. All right, ladies, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to the podcast today. The one thing I always ask is, and I will ask forever, is that to keep this podcast going, to keep others hearing this great message, do me a favor. If you have not gone to Apple's podcast and given me a review, rate, review, subscribe, that would be absolutely fabulous for me. I've done over 200 episodes and I really want to make sure that more and more people hear this. So go in there and leave me a review. It would be the world to me. If you're like, Kim, I don't know how to do that, below, show notes, find me, and I will walk you through how to create a review. All right, Magic Makers, enjoy the rest of your day. And thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this podcast. And if you're ready to be consistent, I got you.